Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Connecticut Valley School Podcast. We're live in the studio with an old friend of mine, a local Portland businessman for many, many years. This is going to be take two. You're never going to hear take one. So anyway, Mr. Wayne Carini is with us in the house. Hi, Wayne. How you doing?
Great, Dave. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to come up. So anyway, so tell us about your day job.
Oh God, I wear many hats, as they say.
I know.
Wear many hats. I probably one thing people want to know is I moved to Portland in 1973. I bought a building lot in Portland.
Yep.
And when I first looked at it, I wanted it, and then I've come to find out it was my great grandfather's property that my uncle inherited.
Really?
Yeah, on Thompson Hill Road.
Okay.
And so when I heard that from the neighbor across the street, I said, "Do you know who that owns that property?" And he says, "Yeah, some guy from Glastonbury, Kavanaugh." I said, "Rich Kavanaugh?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, I'll go see him." And in the end, my grandmother really worked him over, and I paid him $2,500, and I painted his house, and I painted his car.
Really?
And I got 3 acres.
That was a winner chicken dinner.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was good. And so he says, "I'm not giving him the property; he has to earn it," which was a good point.
Well, that's
work hard and you get things you want.
Well, and that's the thing, and you've always done that throughout your whole life, as far as that goes. So, I think I know your dad brought you up in the industry, and he unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but I know he's instilled a lot of those ethics and skills.
Yeah, I grew up working every day, 7 days a week with my dad. I didn't play baseball or do anything.
Yeah.
And I was sort of reluctant, wanted to do those things, but it paid off in the end.
Sure.
I moved to Portland. I built a log home there, and then I moved my business here, and I think it was 1992.
Okay.
And so it's been over 30 years I've been in town with my business, but I lived here previously and had a business in Glastonbury. Grew up in Glastonbury.
Okay.
And graduated high school in 1970 there.
Yep.
And did my college routine at 3 different universities, but gradually graduated from Central and as an art teacher. And then I went into the car business with my dad. It's sort of a sideline. I wanted to become an art teacher.
Yep.
But I student taught for about 3 months in a Manchester school system, and I knew that I just didn't like it.
It wasn't my thing.
Wasn't for me. Nope. So went to work for Dad, took over the business, and it just evolved. So we had a really great reputation of restoration quality stuff, and then I had a collision shop, an automotive collision shop at the same time.
Okay.
We were restoring a lot of Ferraris. My dad restored classic cars and Model A Fords during my youth, and then I got into Ferraris in my early 20s, started doing some work on those, and became very world-renowned for my work on those.
Hence the name F40 Motorsports.
F40 Motorsports is when I bought that building, I had an F40 car that I bought. It was wrecked, and I fixed it, and I was using it, and it was either borrow the money from a bank or sell the F40 Ferrari. So I sold the car, unfortunately at the wrong time, because now they're worth about $3.5 million. And the property's not worth that much, but that's okay. It was for the business, and so moving to Portland was a good move. I took over the old Nissan dealership, and then next door the old Volvo dealership.
Sure, yeah.
And between those buildings and another one I built, F40 Motorsports is here today.
And there we go. And going back and forth. Now, obviously, you've. And then, when did you launch your TV show?
TV show was launched 19 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, hard to think, but that all came about because a friend of mine wrote an article about a car that I found right here on East Main Street in Portland, and I knew about the car. and that was Hazel Robinson's Hudson Italia.
Yeah.
And Ray Robinson, her brother, had given her the car. But when I was 16, Ray brought it to my dad because they worked together at Pratt & Whitney. My dad worked second shift at Pratt.
Okay.
And restored cars during the day. But he brought the car up for some repairs, and it was this weird and unusual looking car, and I fell in love with it. And I stayed with it and tried to buy it all these years. And finally, that was when I was 16. I finally bought the car when I was 52 years old.
Wow.
And I told a friend of mine that, Donald Osborne, and he wrote an article that appeared in the New York Times, a full-page article in the Sunday Times in the automotive section, which they don't have anymore.
Right. Well,
and so Jim Ostrowski from Essex Television read that article and called me the next day and said, "I'm looking for somebody to do a TV show about in the automotive world, and I read this article yesterday. I think you're my guy."
Okay.
So he showed up an hour later in my office. We talked for 20 minutes. I told him I wasn't an actor. I didn't want to be an actor. But if he thought it was something interesting, I'd be willing to give it a shot.
Okay.
And he got the camera out of the car, and that was 218 episodes ago.
Wow.
And it just worked out.
Wow.
Yeah, it became the most popular automotive television show in the world.
Yeah, because what channel was that on now?
That was on Velocity Channel. We started with a channel called HD Theater, which was Discovery Channel's high-definition TV network.
Right, okay.
Where they showed high-def programming. And we were the automotive content on that. And then it moved to Velocity Channel, and that was all about different cars. And they had shows on cars and motorcycles and racing and stuff. And then Motor Trend bought Velocity from Discovery.
Okay.
And it basically screwed it all up. And so I just signed a new contract with them, and we filmed season 19, and they said, "We have no money to pay you. We might be able to pay you in a couple of years."
Okay.
And so I said, "No, we're done."
Yeah.
And it was a little bit more than that, but that's what it rounded out to.
Right.
So now what are we going to do? We're sort of on a roll.
Yeah.
I mean, this was kind of fun doing it and traveling all over the country, all over the world.
Sure.
So we started our own TV network, Speed Vision.
Okay.
And the president of Velocity Channel retired, and he and I and 3 other guys from Discovery Channel that are retired, and some great investors like Craig Jackson from Barrett Jackson, some other great people.
Okay.
We started our own network. And so it's moving along fairly well. It's streaming on Roku, Fubo, Amazon Prime.
Nice.
And we're just real close to doing a deal with Walmart for Vizio TVs. Walmart bought Vizios and Vizio TVs, and they're going to be embedding our network within every TV that comes out. So you just plug it in the wall and put your cable to it, and we come up.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're doing a new show called Catching Classic Cars. When we were filming the show, it got kind of crazy. I was on the road 180 to 190 days a year.
I can remember seeing you in airports.
Yeah. I was at an airport a lot. Once a week at least I was in an airport.
Yeah.
And it got real tiring.
Yeah.
And so when they couldn't pay me, I sort of took a sigh of relief, like I got a little break.
Yeah.
And we're trying now, because I go around the country and do different appearances for different manufacturers that I represent, different companies.
Yes.
And then everybody wants you at their car show, and doing the tour. So I'm getting it down right now. I think this year we'll have about 145 days on the road.
Okay. Yeah. Now you mentioned Barrett Jackson. I mean, you display cars.
We've sold cars at Barrett Jackson, many other auctions.
Okay.
So we go to Mecum, Barrett Jackson, RM, Gooding, Bonhams, many other auctions, and I pick. The way I pick an auction to sell a car in is that they have to be enthused about the car as much as I am.
Okay.
If they just say, yeah, just bring it and we'll somehow fit it in, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Promotion sells. And if you promote things correctly and you make it something very special, which we don't just bring mundane cars to the auction, we bring really outstanding cars.
Right.
We brought the Hirahata Mercury, which was the most famous custom car ever built by George Barris in 1951. And the family, the gentleman that owned it, asked me to help the family sell it on his passing, which I did. And we thought it was worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And we went around and I talked to many people that could buy it, could afford it, and would want it.
Yeah.
And everybody said, oh, no, that's $200,000-300,000 at the very most. I don't think I'd pay that much for it.
Okay.
We brought it to Meekum. We put $1 million reserve. It sold for $1.95 million.
Wow.
So and it promoted it. We contacted all the right people, and 10 of those bidders at the last few minutes of the sale were the people that we sent letters to.
Wow.
So yeah, promotion works.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now you said that was a Mercury?
Mercury, yep.
Is that a lead sled?
Yeah, lead sled. So
I'm
this guy
just-
Bob Hirahata was a Japanese gentleman and lived in Los Angeles and brought a 1-year-old Mercury to Barris's shop and said, I want to win the Autorama, and I don't care how much it costs.
Okay.
And his family owned parking garages in Los Angeles, so they had some money to spend. And that's what he got. And it ended up becoming the most famous custom car in the world.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Really cool.
Now you also, I mean, obviously you fix and repair, and you own a lot and sell a lot of your own, but you also broker other people's cars, correct?
Yeah, so we take cars in consignment to sell at F40. We buy our own and sell them too. And so our sales room is in the old Nissan building.
Yep.
And our restoration shop is next door in the old Volvo dealership.
Yep.
And so that's how it works.
Sure, you know.
And we're busy with cars. We do cars from people all over the country, all over the world. We've got a Saudi prince we're doing a Cadillac for right now that's going to go to Italy next summer to a show called Villa d'Este. It's on Lake Como.
Okay.
And so we'll be showing that. It's a very famous Cadillac, De Valkyrie it's called.
Okay.
It's a Brooks Stevens design car.
Okay.
And we get cars from Kansas right now and California. And we got local cars too.
Okay.
So, it doesn't matter. We don't pick people from any particular state.
If it has wheels, we can.
Well, and the rule of thumb, how I work it is the car has to be interesting to me.
Okay.
I have to have interest in the car. If I see something and some guy, brings a car that it just doesn't set the spark with me.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just not interested in doing it. I don't want to be hoity-toity about it, but it could be anything. I mean, it could be a Ford pickup truck that I'm enthused about. It could be a Volkswagen. Doesn't matter. If I like the car, you're in.
Yeah. Okay.
And you as a person too. So we do a little. I took psychology in college, and when I took Psych 1, I said, "What do I need this for? This is crazy." And then I took Psych 2, and I started to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I can talk to somebody in 5 minutes and tell you whether I want to work with them or not.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, it's
just my father always told me, "Shut up and listen."
Well, there's a lot of credence to that.
That's right. Don't pound your chest and tell everybody how good you are and this and that. Just listen to them, and then take all that information and compile it and figure out what you want to do based on all that information.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know we did an economic development video on you many years ago and so forth. Tell us about the Rain Man car.
Yeah. So, being on TV, you become pretty famous. And, initially when I got the opportunity to do the show, we did 2 pilots for Discovery. They liked them. And then we were filming out in Monterey.
Okay.
And the girl that was in charge of programming for our Discovery Channel spent 4 days with us. And she seemed to think that I know a lot of people, and I do in the automotive world.
Yeah.
And she said, "Your life's about to change because I'm going to give you an opportunity to do your own TV show on a weekly or a basis where you come out, and we're going to do 13 episodes with you. And if it does really good, then we'll give you more episodes." Well, it hit it out of the charts the first season, and they came back and signed for another season. And then they gave us 27 episodes to do a year, the 3rd season.
Yeah, oh, wow.
Which was, I said, how are we going to do this?
Right.
But with the Rain Man car, because of having my daughter Kimberly on the show with me, and she has autism.
Yeah.
And her and I would just go out for a ride in a car and talk. And there was a guy that recognized that. And he sent his car to have me repair it and restore it. And when it arrived, I had no idea what it was. And there was a movie that was out in that era. It was called Rain Man. It was about an autistic man and his brother driving across country in a Buick Roadmaster.
Yeah.
And the Rain Man car became very famous. It became a character itself in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the flatbed truck shows up one day, and the car comes off, and I go, oh, that looks just like the Rain Man car. And so come to find out, the lady called me that was his secretary, and it was the Rain Man car, and he says, I want you to restore it for me. And so we restored it, and then when I went to give it back to him, he wanted me to park it in a dirt floor garage up in Washington, Connecticut, on the lake up there. And I refused to do that. And I said, it was Barry Levinson is the name, and he's done a lot of really great movies.
Yeah.
And I said, Barry, I can't leave it there. I'll work a deal with you. I'll store it for you for nothing if you allow me to use it to promote autism charities.
Okay.
That was 14 years ago, and Barry's never seen the car. He stores it with me. I use it to promote autism charities all over the country. We ship it around all over the country and do promotional things for autism charities. So it's worked out real well. I keep trying to buy it from him. He says, what do you want to buy it for? You got the best of both worlds. You don't have to pay for it, and you can use it anytime you want.
Wow. I mean, I've seen it. It's impeccable.
Yeah, it's a great car, and it's so iconic. Everybody looks at it and says, is that the Rain Man car? And, of course, it is.
Well, you have the Rain Man marker plate on it.
That's right. But we've got the stamp of approval from the director of the movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. When you talk about being enthused about cars, and obviously if you're enthused about cars, if the car's for sale, a lot of times you'll buy it. So I know you've accumulated quite a few cars.
Well, I got a couple.
Couple, 2, 3.
We never say how many we have because Mrs. Carini might find out.
Yes. Well, well, it's just like my wife and I. Before she passed, I mean, how many guitars do you have?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
I got a few.
When I got married, I was and still am into motorcycles. I love motorcycles.
Yes.
And I stopped riding a few years ago, but she walked down into the basement of the log home that I'd built, and the laundry was downstairs. And so one day she walked upstairs. She goes, "Which one's the new motorcycle?" I go, "There's no new motorcycle." She goes, "I may not know what they are, but I know how to count." And right then and there, I knew I was in trouble.
So now, speaking of motorcycles, I know I've seen some Ducatis down there. What other brands do you?
Oh, I have a little bit of everything. We have Harleys, Indians,
Okay.
Excelsior, Ariel Square 4, let's see, Bruff Superior, Vincent Black Shadow. I have a Honda that my father restored years ago. A wide range of things. A lot of sidecars. I think I have 6 sidecar rigs.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So it's I don't know why I do it. I just love looking at them.
Well,
I think they're pieces of art.
Sure. Absolutely.
And the engines are so exposed and everything. You can see everything. I love them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know you are. You must be familiar with George Gilbert's Indian collection.
Sure. Yeah, I know George, and he's helped me out in the past, do some things. Get a couple bikes running. So yeah, George. As a matter of fact, he was just in about 2 weeks ago, and we're talking around and seeing if we could get together and go for a ride.
Yeah. Well, I know it's. He gets out, and I've done some filming with him on his motorcycle and so forth. But,
well, Portland's got a great history with Indian.
Yes,
absolutely. So the family that started Indian in Middletown, Connecticut, so they took a bicycle and they put an engine in it, and then they put the gas tank on the rear fender, and it was called a Camelback.
Yep.
And it was built right in Middletown, just over the bridge. And Hellstrom, is it Hellstrom? Hedstrom owned a large house here on Main Street in Portland, up on the hill.
Yep.
And he was the guy that basically had patents on pieces, the carburetors and things like that on the Indian motorcycles.
Yes.
So they moved up to Springfield, where all the best workers were, really high technical workers back in that era. That's where Rolls Royces were built. Derriers. There was so many other things. Stevens Derriers were in Chicopee Falls. A lot of very talented people in that area. And so because of that, Indian moved to that area and built motorcycles there until the late 40s, early 50s.
I'm sure he must have told you the story about the Pickering Governor.
No.
Okay, which is part of the governors that went on those motorcycles or whatever. But anyway, there's a picking governor basically, which is on top of the steeple, okay, of Trinity Church.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, and so forth.
Yeah, well, Portland, Middletown have a lot of history. That's for sure. You know, we have the brownstone quarries here.
Yep, absolutely.
There's so many people, or so many buildings, and architects use the stone out of there for universities like Brown University. There's buildings in New York City,
Yeah.
all with our stone in it.
Absolutely.
So
I know that was
great history.
You know, my father was selectman back in the early 70s and so forth. And one of the things he was proud of is the history of brownstone in Portland. And anytime people would come out of the house, he would always drive down to the quarries. And this is where the brownstone is. And so,
well, we had boat building.
Yes,
yes. a lot of boat building. A lot of farming.
Sure.
In my property on Isinglass,
Yep.
you know, the house was built in 1740.
Yeah.
That's a very old house,
Yes.
and it's still in great shape. So, you know, there's a lot of history. Unfortunately, in this country, people want to forget history. And
Yeah.
if it's anywhere being bad, they just want to lose it. Well, I mean, history is history. You can't erase it.
Yes.
And it teaches us
Yes.
what to avoid, what not to do. You know,
Absolutely.
I've read a lot about the Civil War. I've seen movies and stuff. How a next door neighbor could take up a gun and shoot their neighbor because they didn't believe in the same things as each other. And it, unfortunately, it's getting close to that today. You know, it's really the tension is unbelievable. But
Sure.
But to think of all the things that people went through back in the 1700s, the 16, 17, 1800s.
Right.
1800s were a great period of time because we had the Industrial Revolution, and it was so many new things and so many ideas and so many smart people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's so many brilliant people.
Well, you know, and it's surprising, you know, a lot of people that, you know, we talk about college educated and all that kind of stuff. I mean, most of the people that did a lot of the inventing were, you know, people that, you know, worked in their garage, worked with their hands.
Yeah, they had that spark.
Yes.
To want to do something, and you know, it's like anything. You know, somebody says, "Oh, geez, you know, you took over your dad's business." Well, I really didn't. I bought my dad out. I was going to move.
Yes.
With my knowledge and start my own business, but I felt bad for my dad, and you know, he wasn't a saver, so I bought him out. But it's that drive. I mean, I'll be 74 this year, and I have that drive. I get up at 4 every morning. I'm at work at 6:30. You know, I just, you know, I don't want to stop.
Well, I'm right back at you. I'm getting this month, next week I'll be 74. So
yeah. So you know, we get, because what else are you going to do? I mean, you know.
Well, it's, you know, I've you know, worked for the town for 50 years, and you know, my wife and I started this. In fact, you know, Ronna taught Kimmy for many years. Your wife used to bring at Trinity Church, you know, and so forth. And there's a lot of good times, a lot of great memories, and so forth. But,
well, you know, education is. Listen, I don't look back and say I did the wrong thing by going to college. I thought it was great time of life and a great education I got, and I used certain part of that every day.
Yeah.
I was very good at math and trigonometry and calculus and things like that I wanted to become an architect.
Yeah.
But yet I don't use that every day. But yet I know how to talk to people. You know, my family taught me to be kind and be a gentleman and all those things, and you absorb it. So education doesn't come just from your schooling; it comes from the people around you.
Exactly.
And if you hang out with good people,
well, and that's,
it's all going to be good.
Well, and that's the thing is, and you know, you if you surround yourself with good people, you know, things rub off. You know, as far as that goes. I know when I was teaching my town tech class at the high school, I stressed to all my students and so forth. Never underestimate the power of networking, because you never know, you know,
who you're talking to.
Who you're talking to, you know, and you never know when you might need something and say, I know guy, and vice versa, you know.
That's right. People say, how do you know so much about cars, Wayne? And one of the things, the analogy I give is that the train pulls into the station. You're there to pick your mother up. 500 people get off the train. How do you know which one's your mother?
Yeah.
You just know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you've been around things long. You've been around her, been around cars, you've been around all this stuff, and you absorb it like a sponge. My 9-year-old grandson, that's what he's doing now. He's just absorbing everything.
Sure. And the kids, they are like sponges now these days.
But the problem, one of the problems today is that there's 2 words, and I swore I was going to open a college. It's called the Wayne Carini School of Common Sense. Just use your common sense.
Yeah.
Just, stand back for a second, say, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah.
Or should I maybe think about it a little more? Just common sense.
Yeah.
And if you use common sense in your life, everything's going to be just fine.
You'll do fine.
Everything's going to be fine.
Exactly. So what's on the horizons for you? I mean, obviously you're not going to be retiring very soon.
No. We had when we had some houses down at the beach, and then we sold the houses, and we got flooded out down there. So I wanted to build a new house, and so we started looking at Killingworth and Madison, and towards the beach.
Yeah.
And with me being on the road so much, my biggest factor was how long does it take to get to the airport?
Yeah.
And then this property on Isinglass popped up, and it'd been for sale, but yet I knew the realtor, and I had a little inside track there. Again, it's all in who you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And he said, "Listen, Wayne, make an offer. Let's try to make this happen for you." And so we did, and we bought the property, built a beautiful home.
Yeah.
And now everybody's happy. But there's things we talk about improving the town and that stuff. I went to a meeting the other day, and then I got a couple of calls. Oh, why don't you run? Are you kidding me? First off, I got no time, and I have no patience for government.
Yes. Well,
you have to have a lot of patience for government, because I'm a doer and not a go to 10 meetings to try to get things done.
Well,
but we need some help in town, and so I hope to be on that track, not running or not being a politician, just to help, because it's almost too late for me, but yet I want to see the town succeed.
Well, that's something that I don't know if they convinced me to run for board of selectmen, so I'm going to be on the.
Well, you're going to be in my mouthpiece then.
All right, fantastic. You got it, buddy.
But we're filming Talking Classic Cars.
Yep.
Podcast Talking Classic Cars,
Okay.
and then we're filming Catching Classic Cars.
Okay.
I just wrote my second book, and it's about my life.
Okay.
So that is at the printers right now, and we should have the first copies in about 3 weeks.
Nice.
Steering through life, basically, how I dodged all the bullets and and all the bullets were flying at once, but I was able to make it to the end.
Sure.
And so that's coming out, and then we're just writing a new book, my life with chasing classic cars, so my life on the road, filming and doing the shows that we did, and that'll be probably 5 editions, because we're going to dissect 218 episodes.
Wow.
And bring everybody behind the curtain a little bit and tell them some of the flub ups that happened that didn't make it to the camera. And,
made the cutting room floor.
That's the cutting room floor stuff. And so writing books, and then I'm out on the trail doing signings. We're going to unveil the book in England over at Goodwood.
Okay.
That's south of London, where they have the revival, it's called, and the Duke of Marlborough and his cousins. They run this event over there, and it's a fabulous event. I was over there in May and had the best time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a racetrack, and they do everything related with cars. And for the revival, you have to get dressed up in period correct clothing.
Nice.
And so it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. So we'll be over there unveiling the book, doing some signings.
Now, what's the motorcycle? Is that in England that they go crazy and race through the countrysides?
Well, that's the Isle of Man TT.
Oh, okay.
Isle of Man TT, the most dangerous, auto or motorsport in the world. So they're on this island, Isle of Man, and they're racing, and the course I think is like 22 miles around.
Okay.
And they're just going flat out, and there's no barriers, there's no hay bales, there's nothing.
That's it.
If you fall off and hit a tree, you're dead.
Yeah.
They're doing 200 miles an hour, and the bike is barely staying on the road.
Wow.
So my grandson gets about 14, 15 years old. That's on the bucket list to go over and do that.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to try to travel a lot more, I've been to Pebble Beach, Concord, Elegance for 49 years.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of years.
Yeah.
It sort of scares me that I'm that old to have gone 49 years. I'm not going to make my 50 this year, but and I'm going to do some other things. Going to South America. We're going to be going over to Italy next year, and then we'll be over in England. So
good. Now, what kind of bikes do they normally run on that Isle of Man?
Those are super bikes. So 750 to 1,000 cc bikes. And most of the guys that ride are Irish or Scottish.
Okay,
they're the guys that got the biggest, whats, and you have to. I mean, you have to have it in your blood. It's sort of like racing or horse breeding or horse riding.
Yeah.
It's in you. And these kids grew up with that.
Wow.
And it's an amazing thing to see how they can handle these motorcycles at these high speeds.
And they do have fatalities.
Oh, every year.
Yeah.
Every year, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. Formula One used to be that way. It was just part of the game. And now, of course, we're trying to do as much to save people's life instead of killing them.
Yeah.
But yet that was part of the job. And they didn't get paid much in Formula One back in the 60s. I mean, Rodriguez brothers from Mexico, they were getting $500 a race.
Wow.
With no benefits afterwards.
Sure.
And they'd have to fly themselves in and pay for their hotel out of the 500.
Wow.
So they'd walk home with about maybe $250.
Okay.
But right. It wasn't like anything. It's like me going to car shows or doing rallies or stuff. It's in you, and you got to do it. I
know you used to do a lot with David Letterman's cars. So are you still working with David?
David, no. It's funny. I got a call about 2 years ago from Dave and his representatives, and they said, "Wayne, we want to sell all the cars." So I'd done 14 cars for Dave over the years, and we bought a lot of cars. His mechanic and my good friend Francois Sicard was good friends with Dave too, and so because of that, that's how I got to know Dave so well. And he said, it doesn't fit my lifestyle anymore.
Okay.
He's got a nice place out in Wyoming or Montana, and that's where he goes. He loves living out there. He has a son now that's college age, and he doesn't like cars.
Okay.
He likes one car, and that's a Volvo that he has that Paul Newman built, 3 Volvo wagons with Ford V8s with superchargers on them, and sold one to Dave and sold one to his accountant. And then I found Paul Newman's actual car, and I have it in my collection now.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
wow.
So, and that's the one car his son likes, so he says, sell them all. So,
well, he had a garage in Danbury or something?
Danbury, right at the airport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yep, the old FedEx building there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he still has the garage, but he keeps some vehicles in there, but...
comes up out of New York and he takes a drive?
It's not far. From where he lives to the garage in Danbury is probably a 20-minute ride.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, it's not far at all.
Wow. And you're also buddies with Jay Leno?
Jay's a good buddy. Yeah, I've known Jay for, 40 years, and...
I've seen Jay down at your place.
Yeah, we've become really, really good friends. He does a lot of charity work for me, and I do it for him, and we raise money for different charities. He contacts me when he needs something, and I, whatever he needs, I'll do. But it's nice to have a friend like that just, I don't call him once a month.
Yeah.
I might not talk to him for 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
But we'll see each other. He bought a mansion in Newport, beautiful house, and so he's part of the Audrey Museum.
Okay.
And so we see each other there at least once a year. But unfortunately, his wife is not doing well, and he limits his travel now. And his rule of thumb is that he's going to be at his house to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So he doesn't go, if he travels and stays overnight, it'll be one night. But for instance, he was just filming out in California with my friend Donald Osborne. And there was some virus going around, and they both lost their voice while they were filming.
Oh, wow.
They both walked in, and he says, I need to get my voice. I'm going to be in Oregon tomorrow night for a show. But he'll go to Oregon, and he'll fly home. So the show will end at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and he'll jump on the plane. Yeah, he's got his own. He doesn't own his own plane, but he charters.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so it's got the same pilots and stuff. But he'll be home at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, Go home and sleep, and he'll be at the garage at 9 o'clock in the morning working on his cars.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now he has Jay Leno's Garage. Now is that a
Jay
TV?
Leno's Garage is a show that he spun off of the Tonight Show.
Okay.
And so he did that, and Jay Leno's Big Dog Garage and stuff. So he's got a couple of guys that work for him on cameras, and then NBC sort of wanted him to stick around in some form or fashion. We've tried to get him to move over to our network, but he's loyal to NBC. They've been good to him over the years. So he stays with NBC, and he's doing some shows. But he's very talented. We did an event down in Boca Raton a couple of years ago together, and we were raising money. And he said, with all these new ways of telling who your relatives were, you can find out through genetics and all this stuff. He says, I found out yesterday Wayne Carini's my father.
Okay.
He's off the cuff. When he was looking at our new home one day, we were over the barn, and he looked up. He says, "So, what? That's a big place." I said, "Yeah, well, that's our bedroom over there, and that's my mother-in-law's apartment at the end of the." Oh, he says, "I thought that was the gift shop." Yeah, Jay, and I've seen probably 10 or 15 of his shows over the years.
Yeah.
And he's non-political.
Yeah.
He's so good. It talks about his family and things like that, and his politics. Just he doesn't mix in
at the door.
Doesn't mix politics. Never did on Tonight Show.
No.
He never did anything. It was pure, enjoyable comedy,
Well,
and that's why he's still so popular.
Oh, sure.
With everybody.
Well, and that's back in the day. I mean, and he kind of took over when Johnny Carson retired. So it's Johnny Carson, and then of course you had Jay Leno and then David Letterman. Those are
so when I'd see Jay out at Pebble Beach every year, and at the time I was doing a lot of work for Letterman, he'd go, "How's that? What's that guy's name? Dave? What's his name? How is he anyways?" Letterman. How's he doing?
Nice.
Yeah, they had a little dispute, a little feud over the years because Dave Letterman was supposed to take that post, that job, and they almost had him in the seat, and Jay, they called Jay in, and listen, they both did fantastic.
Oh yeah,
they didn't have to worry about it, but they sort of patched things up and they talk to each other now.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. So fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode of the Connecticut Valley School of Music podcast. And in the house is Portland's own Mr. Wayne Carini. Wayne, thank you so much for taking time and coming up and sharing some of your great knowledge and some of your great stories. Fantastic.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all.